Hey guys, welcome to the Deer Butcher, where we discuss or just randomly talk about different things while butchering a deer. That's why I decided to start videotaping. Because in this day and age, there's not enough reality. I mean, everyone's addicted and attached to their phones and don't really get out there in the real world and experience real things. So I thought videotaping some of my butchering sessions and talking about, I don't know, anything, philosophy, butchering techniques. Anyways, just getting my setup ready right here. I'm gonna put on some safety gloves. Got my rain jacket on because blood does spatter everywhere. I do admit, first time I butchered a deer, it wasn't pleasant. I did feel sick. It was kind of gross. I wasn't used to it. But now I think I'm about 100 years in. It's second nature and pretty natural thing now. So you notice it's dead in the middle of the night. And this is because after work, well, this is the only time I have to butcher deers. Usually I pick it up from the hunters who caught the deers in the morning in their traps. And I pick it up at night. And usually finish around 2 or 3 a.m. It's a good part-time job because, you know, people need dog food. Food prices are expensive these days, so I got a lot of buyers who appreciate the cheaper prices they can get. Bring some of my buckets up here. So, here we are in the Japanese countryside. One of my students' farms. They grow traditional Japanese trees where they, it's called sakaki trees, where they take the leaves and bunch it up in ropes with rubber bands and put it on the Japanese altar. He's got a boar problem here, just like most other Japanese people do throughout Japan. Boars, bears, white-tailed deers is devastating to the agriculture industry. So a lot of hunters hunt the animals and then get a bounty for it. But unfortunately, 90% of all the hunters out there throw away the meat. And being a person who does not like waste, growing up in a household of non-waste, I didn't like that very much. So I try to work more by principle as opposed to monetary things. Of course, I do get some money, pretty good money from selling the meat. So it's definitely a plus because I have a lot of mouths to feed. Anyways, here's my little setup, my tiny K car. The deers out here in Japan don't get that big. Biggest I've seen is about 100, 110. This is a large female. And as you can see, the hunters, in order to get the bounty, they need to write the date. This is R, which is Reiwa, which is the Japanese date for when the emperor became emperor of Japan, the new emperor. They start a new era, which now is Reiwa 6. So it's 6 years since he's become emperor. And February, today's, I don't know, it's 20-something, 23rd. And the hunters out here have to take a picture with the deer facing this way, write the date, take a picture with all the relevant information, and then take another picture with it crossed out. And as you can see, it's missing the ear, it's missing the tail. They have to bring the ear and the tail, sometimes just the tail, to the city hall or whatever hunting establishment they have, and they get a bounty. The bounty can range from 7,000 yen, which is about 50 bucks, to 14,000 yen, which is about 100 bucks, depending on how much the city or the prefecture has to give. This deer is not that big. It looks to be about 55 kilograms. I assume it's a female deer, probably 3 or 4 years old. Could be pregnant. It's February now, so the female deers will start having babies within 2 or 3 months, so they're getting close to term. Anyways, I made this little contraption to just, easily hook up to the feet, like that. Surprisingly, it hooks up to small deer or even big deer. Unfortunately, it doesn't work on boars because their feet and their legs are about the same width, so it just falls through. So anyways, I'm just gonna pull it up the slope. We have a bit of an incline here. I used to do it with a winch, but I just do it by hand now because it's just faster. And I wedge myself up on this tree log and just pull it up like that. It's been raining, so it's a bit slippery. Whew. A little bit of workout here. There we go. Oof! Alright, it's up. Let's take this off. So, I've been doing this for about a year, maybe a year and a half. I think I butchered close to 100. I've tried many different techniques and different styles. I don't butcher for humans, I butcher for dogs. So it doesn't have to be super clean or sanitary. Dogs really don't care if there's blood or, blood or hair in their meat. So they're very non-picky customers, and the owners are just happy they can get a cheap price on meat. I made this, this is for boars. I have to hook it through the tendons, like here. And I use this for boars because you can't use this contraption for the feet. The boars, it just slips through. So I made this specially with some soldering. Anyway, I got my winch here. And I'm just gonna pull this down. Just on a cheap website. Winch was only 50 bucks on Amazon. Pretty good deal. Everything seems to be cheaper online. If I was gonna get this at the local hardware store, it'd probably cost a few $100, but online it's freaking like 50 bucks. Or 5,000 yen, which is even cheaper. Anyways, now I'd have it hooked to the chain winch. Just lift it up like that. Might sound strange, but if I go for a long time without butchering any deers, I get a little bit restless. I guess you can say this has become a routine for me. It's kind of my meditation. It relaxes me because, I mean, really, how often do you get to look your meat in the eye? You know? This guy was shot with a rifle. He's a really good shot, so I'm sure he got a headshot somewhere. Or the neck. I'm not sure where it is. It's nice, it's cold now, it's February, there's a few bugs. That looks like a headshot. Yeah, I don't exactly know where it is. But anyways, get that leg around. Whoa! Fuck. Okay. Alright. Now, I have 2 selected knives. Filleting knife and a regular house knife. They have their advantages and disadvantages. I'm gonna go with the Damascus one because I just sharpen it and it cuts a little bit better. I usually start with the leg and just try to get it through. Yeah. The joint there. Oops. I gotta get my meat bucket. My junk bucket. Oops. I think I might have forgot my junk bucket. Oh well. This will be a good temporary junk bucket. That's just junk bucket for the bones and the legs and I don't need, so I can just dump it when I need to. Oopsie. It's windy now, so shit is flying away. It sure is better than rain though, let me tell you. I came here once, it was just out of dead of the winter, and I have like 20 deer buried there. And it was raining. It hadn't rained in a long time. It's raining like crazy. And it flooded this whole area. It flooded the whole area, so all the maggots started crawling all throughout here, crawling up the tree. There's literally a million maggots just everywhere. And it's just insane. It was like a horror movie. As you can see, I have some deer hung up around the trees by their antlers, so they're kind of trophies for later. But yeah, anyway, so I cut off the legs. I'm going to now detach the head. It's a lot easier than it looks to detach the head. This is the way I've been doing it, and it's been easier for me. Just get into the skin a little bit, make a little incision around the vertebrae. When you have a clean opening to the vertebrae, take this is a Japanese old school hand axe. Just give it a little bit, few chops. Should have been easier than that. Usually I get it on the first few tries. Okay, something came out. I don't know what that was. There we go. Oh, we're almost through. And there we go. That's blood. And we got a head. The head is off. Let's put the head in the junk bucket. And now you're ready to start removing the skin. I usually make an incision up here and up here. Because this leg is attached to here, I don't have to worry about the Achilles cracking, tearing, and the whole thing falling down. That would be terrible and really messy. So I make a little incision along here and put my thumb in it and just start peeling the skin down like so. There's some pros and cons about this boning knife. It cuts really well, but it cuts so well that sometimes it'll pierce through the other side of the skin. It'll pierce through the organs, which if you've butchered deer, you know that's just terrible because it just sends the juices and shit everywhere. And that's really nasty. So once I made the incision, I try to peel some of the skin around the sides off, like so. Peels like a banana. It's much easier to remove the skin when you're cutting longitudinally like this, as opposed to going around. I used to be going around and pulling it around, and it just was more time consuming. So I saw a cool guy on YouTube who does this for a living and has to do it quick, and his philosophy was, you know, make straight lines. Just make straight lines and butcher like that. So that's what we're doing. We're making straight lines along the rib cage until we get down to the legs. I love cutting deer a lot better than cutting boars. 2 days ago, a hunter gave me some boars, and that boar hide, oh my gosh, it's like cutting a leather wallet. It's horrible. But cutting a deer, it's just smooth and quick and easy, and even large deer relatively is easier. The females are a lot softer to cut than the males, so butchering the females is a much more pleasant experience. So now we have the sides a bit cut off. I'm going to go along the middle and remove this belly flesh. And this is the part you need to be very careful of, because the guts are right there. I mean, they're just millimeters away from being exposed and causing a whole literal shit ton of mess. So I cut across here, go to the other side. When you get down here, it's just organs, heart and liver, so you don't have to worry about puncturing this area too badly. But when you get around here, yes, you have the intestines, large intestines, small intestines, and that gets really nasty if you don't know what you're doing. And this usually peels right back up. Just get a few swipes and it'll just come right off. There we go. And throw it back over its butt. Now we're going to get to the side here and cut. This is a female. You want to cut the boobs off. If it's really fresh and you cut the boobs, you're going to have milk pouring all over your meat, which really messes up your meat really bad. So be careful about that. Okay, now we have it pretty much up over its butt. We're going to go to the other side. And now, because I don't have to worry about the tendons, I just cut it right through. I love not having to worry about the tendons. Cutting around the tendons is just such a pain in the ass. Ugh. So now I just pull down like this and cut the meat off, the tendon off the meat. So the skin is exposed on the other side too. Same thing. The tendon is still attached to the skin. Give that a little cut and peel it off. All right, now the tricky part is getting around this butt area, because you have to cut through the anus and over the tailbone. So a little bit of pulling while cutting. And we're going to cut through the anus. There's the anus. The tailbone is right here. You have to find a little opening where there's some cartilage. Find a little opening where there's some cartilage. Cut through the cartilage and you're clear through the bone. In the beginning, it was a pain in the ass trying to find that area, but now I'm quite seasoned, so it's easy to find. I still have some meat attached to the skin. Sorry. I'm going for speed, not perfection. So when you get the skin about pretty much below its ass and about to its back, it'll pull off like a banana. There we go. Like peeling a banana. I try not to waste any part of the deer. I throw away the skin, unfortunately. I'm sure there's many uses for it, but it doesn't sell well, and it takes up a lot of freezer space. So I've been throwing away the skin and the intestines, but the bones, the meat, I make use of, because dogs love bones and the meat. Interesting thing, a commenter who has a dog sent me was that when he comes home from work, without giving his dog any bones to, basically exercise their teeth on, when he comes home, they're really stressed out. But before he goes to work, he throws his dog a femur, a deer femur, with lots of, you need a lot of chewing on that. Dog comes home happy and healthy and not stressed. So, it just makes me feel good that I am providing a bit of a service for these dog owners to help make their dog a little bit more relaxed and happy. Because, this kind of thing it's in a dog's instinct. I mean, this is just it's in their DNA. They see the blood, they see the flesh, they have the smell, and they just want it, They know it's good for them. This is who they are. And when I think about that, and I look at butchering animals or growing your own vegetables in a farm, it's also about being natural and who we are. And unfortunately, being in front of our computers all the time and not getting outside too much, we separate from that. We forget what's real, what's important. And then we get all fucked up. And we'll get fucked up in our heads, and we don't want that. Okay. I don't want to throw in the intestines in here because it's just too much. Just too heavy. I'm going to go to little white dumping grounds. And wow. That's a ton of maggots. You see all those maggots? Thank goodness it's getting warmer, because those maggots did not function well in the dead of winter. It doesn't get that cold out here, but when it gets below freezing, yeah, bugs just don't do well. So anyways, I'm happy the maggots are back, because they'll make short order of those intestines and the skin and everything. So that's awesome. In a few days, that'll just all be gone, and hopefully not stink up the area. There's no one around. So anyways, all the skin is removed, everything's exposed, and we're ready to start butchering. I usually separate my meat into two sections. This is the regular meat and the intestines. I don't like to mix them because they contaminate. Anyways, I usually just take pieces at a time. And I take it off before I cut. I can just cut off this whole bone right here, but then I don't have any leverage when I'm cutting, and it's harder to cut. So I try to cut off as much meat from the bone as I can before I remove the whole bone part. So all you gotta do is slice along the rib cage. There's no bone attaching the front legs, which kind of weird. You always thought there'd be a bone here attaching. There's no bone, it's just ligaments. Just shows you how weak the front legs are. There's no ball joint or anything. Anyways, remove some big old pieces of flesh. There's a bone here. Run your knife along the bone. It's like a T-bone. Not a T-bone, sorry, it's a shoulder bone. So you there's meat along either side of that shoulder, so you kind of want to get your knife into that shoulder and that meat off. There's a big chunk of meat here. Another chunk of meat here. Run my knife around the bone. It's starting to look like a nice little dog bone right here. Get this last little bit of flesh. That's fine. I'll leave that on. Little meat for the doggies to enjoy. This is a nice dog snack. So this will be a frozen dog treat. I love this. Put that in the bone box. And let's go to the other side. Now, cut off some more tendons. As you can see, there's hair everywhere. Dogs don't give a shit about hair, which is nice because humans do. And there's blood everywhere. Dogs don't mind that. They love that. I was selling to another buyer who told me a really sad story. He said one of the meat sellers he bought from washed the meat in chemicals to kill bacteria and stuff. I'm not exactly sure what chemical he said they used, but that chemical killed their dog. So he asked me, do you use any chemicals? Do you wash with any chemically treated water? Because I don't want to see any more of my dogs die. I told him, I'm in the middle of the mountains. There is no water out here. I don't even have water to wash anything, let alone use chemicals. So this is all natural stuff. And this will be completely safe for your dogs. So don't worry. All natural. The worst thing that can happen is that you might get some dirt or leaves in it. Or maybe it got a little bit spoiled. But even spoiled meat won't kill your dog. Maybe give him a tummy ache. I don't even know if it'll give him a tummy ache. One of my customers, I gave him tons of spoiled deer meat, but the dogs still love it. I guess they're just evolved to eat that shit. They don't have refrigerators in the wild. So dogs are going to be eating spoiled deer meat for a couple days until they finish off the animal. They're fine. It's how they're made. That's how they evolved. Seems gross to us, but nothing wrong for them. And there's a lot of meat on this neck, so I try not to waste it. And you see breast meat. A lot of breast meat. Take some of that off. Oops, a little patch of skin. That might not be too good. And the esophagus. All right, let's take a little bit more breast meat, chest meat, and neck meat. There's a lot on here. This is the best stuff. This is really soft and tasty. So now from here, what I usually do is I start working down the intestines. And this is the scary part because a lot of pressure on these intestines, especially when it gets warmer. Whoops. Whoa. Looks like we have a baby. This is a pregnant female. I thought it would be pregnant. And this is the womb. It looks quite half developed. I think in a few more months it will be completely developed. I want to separate this. Oops. It's a undeveloped deer womb. So let's put this in the pile separately. For all those weirdos out there, you may want to see what's in this sack. Let's open it up. I mean, this is life, It doesn't get any more real than this. an animal fetus out of a dead animal. I mean, it seems gross and unethical and disgusting, but this is life, this is reality. And whether you want to see it or not, it's here. It's real. And there we are. That's a deer fetus. An undeveloped deer fetus with the umbilical cord. I think it's beautiful. I mean, call me sick, but it's like a machine that can reproduce and make copies of itself, and it's a miracle. It's amazing. The animals around here will love that. Leave that for them. I heard some Chinese people eat it as a delicacy because everything is edible. Anyways, that once freaked me out. It doesn't anymore. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Who knows? So now, get to a delicate part. Take my shit stick. And push the shit down. So I push the shit out into the intestines. I don't know. I mean, dogs could eat this shit. It's not a big deal, but some people might not want to touch deer shit. So I just cut it out. Just in case they get squeamish, but there's some dogs that eat the stomach, innards of the stomach, half digested grass and stuff, and they love it. Anyways, the stomach part is delicate. We have a kidney. Kidney's good. I'm gonna throw that in the intestine bucket. I chopped one of the kidneys off there, and we detach the intestines from the lining like that. Give it a little bit of a pull. Oopsie. Ooh, okay. And then yank these intestines out. Give it a little bit of pull. There we go. As you can see, we have the lungs, we have the liver, and the stomach. I try to pull it all the way out so the liver is exposed to the bottom, because until that happens, there's still stomach inside. And when the liver is about out this much, you know everything's pretty much out. I mean, you could rip the liver off with your hands. It's just so soft. Liver regenerates really fast, so let's cut that off. It's in the intestine bucket. We have the spleen. Spleen is tasty. I don't like it. Dogs like it, I guess. Take the spleen, throw that in the intestine bucket, and the rest of the intestines, the stomach, I don't need that. There are ways to cook it, but usually within an hour of killing the animal, you have to remove that stuff. Otherwise, you just never get rid of the stink. The stomach meat will go in the intestine bucket because sometimes it gets discolored when freezing. So now we have left is the heart and the lungs. Usually make an incision at the bottom. It's connected by the esophagus, and it's usually covered in a pool of blood. So anyways, pull a nice little pull. Cut the tendons in the esophagus that it's attached to and give it a little bit of a yank. And the lungs and the heart and the intestine bucket. A little pool of blood here. Pool of blood. Okay. Now, on to the other side. We have the backstrap. Backstrap is a nice area of meat. This could be eaten as sashimi. I've tried backstrap sashimi. It's eaten similar to basashi, which is raw horse meat. They eat that. It's a delicacy in Japan. And if you want to eat deer sashimi, you basically just remove the backstrap so. We have a huge, nice piece of backstrap meat right here. What you do is you freeze it. Maybe it'll help kill some pathogens or worms or whatever. I don't think they're in here. You freeze it and you cut it up into little slices. You eat it like you would Japanese basashi, which has maybe sashimi soy sauce, or basashi is most traditionally eaten with what is it, sesame seed oil, maybe some ginger. And deer sashimi actually tastes almost just like Japanese raw horse meat, basashi. So it's a good thing to try if you haven't tried it, considering the price of basashi is pretty darn expensive. You can get like 10-20 bucks for every 100 grams. Deer backstrap meat is dirt cheap. And I bet if you gave it to someone who likes basashi raw horse meat, they probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Maybe they would. I don't know. Anyways, there's a ton of meat along the ribs, especially if the animal's big. So I like to take this off and make the most buck out of my carcass. And I put this in the intestine tray. So now we're gonna remove the other part, like so. Alrighty. I've always been interested in reality, you know, what's real, what do we hide from in our everyday lives that we hide because it's maybe just too difficult to see. So it's easier to just live in a lie. A lot of us are just content with that. Tenderloin, we don't want to forget that. This area is so soft, you can just rip it out with your hand. It's basically attached to the stomach and anus, so I think it facilitates and helps pushing the shit out of the butt. It's my thinking. I don't know if that's true. Maybe ChatGPT would know better than that. Anyways, there's a lot of meat along the spine. I don't like to waste that either, so, you know, I mean, you just have to think what meat is worth your time, however much handfuls you can get, because sometimes it's too time consuming and you have to just let it go. At this point, I'm going to be butchering for the bones. This is a whole rack of bones. Let that blood slide out. You don't let that slide out. It'll splash everywhere. And then you'll turn into Dexter. It's just pretty nasty. Unless you like looking like a bloody mess like Dexter. And put that in the bone bucket. Dogs love the ribs. They love it. Get the other side of the ribs. Hack it along the side. In the bone bucket. The whole spine. Cut a piece of the spine off. Let's put that in the bucket. Alrighty, we're almost done. Just a few more points to axe off. Oopsie. I didn't mean to cut that far. Oh well. And we have a little bit more bone here. Let's just chop that off. Son of a bitch. It's easier if I have a longer thing to hold on to. Anyways, there we go. Alright, so now we're only left with the thighs, and this is the majority of the meat. See this amount of meat right here? This probably has double that. So, take piece after piece off. Huge chunks there, huge chunks. This is where the money comes in. This is where the weight is. Huge chunks of meat. Bam! Tendons here. Nice little pieces of meat. Most people don't eat these. I think the French do, but it takes a long time to cook them. Dogs will just wolf them down real quick. Alrighty. The shape of this femur bone, it's really weird. It goes like this and it curves around. So you have to kind of move your blade around it. And then there's a whole chunk of meat at the bottom here, so you have to kind of cut along this area. It's like a chicken breast or a large turkey. It's actually quite similar. Once you get used to cutting, it gets much easier. But the first time, yeah, this would take me an hour and a half. I've got it down to about 30 minutes. So I'm in and out pretty quickly. So, yeah, the more you do it, the better you get. So that's it. When you're doing this, you don't have to ask yourself, where does my meat come from? Well, because it's right in front of you. It's staring at you. Literally. Especially when you're cutting off its head. And it's truthful, you know, it's real, and for some reason, call me weird, I find some solace in that. Knowing that when I'm eating, I took responsibility and butchered it myself. I didn't ask an executioner at my local supermarket to do it for me. And it's just all responsibility, you know? Taking responsibility for things you eat, things you do. It's a consequence. Every time you eat something, every time you go to the store to buy a t-shirt, we never really think about it because we don't want to see all the shit that's happening in the world. Because it's too hard sometimes. I don't blame people. It's hard. When you look it in the face, or its ass, and you take charge, it empowers you. It really does. Particularly farming, growing your own vegetables. I've always been keen on butchering. I don't know why. When I was in high school, while eating lunch at home or dinner, I would watch autopsy channels of brain surgery, and I don't know why. It just seemed interesting. It interested me. Anatomy, machines interested me. I would take apart every little thing in my house, VCRs, TVs, and there was no limit of that. My house was an absolute junkyard. My dad was a complete hoarder, going to garage sales every Saturday and Sunday, collecting all this shit that would junk up our house and just rot away. And almost got all the meat. So I loved taking things apart. It may seem like machines and animals are not the same, which is ridiculous. They are basically entirely the same. An animal, it's not that much different than a car. I mean, there's a motor. It's got wheels, which is legs. Motor's a heart. It's got a shell, a paint, which is like the skin. There's fuel, which is food. The exhaust, which is the poop. We're pretty much done with that. So taking apart a machine, for me, taking apart an animal, the animal was just a more sophisticated machine. It was an incredible machine that I couldn't mechanically understand. It was just so complicated and amazing. So well, there's the femur. Apparently some guy's dog loves that shit. And we have the legs left. I'm not gonna waste these either. I don't like finding the tendon, so I just fucking chop that off. There we go. Let's put the legs in our waste bucket. Put our extra bones in our bone bucket. And now we have it nicely separated. The pure meat, the intestines, and the bones. The discards are going to our dead deer baby fetus. It's life, you know. It's just life. It's like Legos. You take it apart, you put it back together. You take it apart, you put it back together. All different combinations. It's more sophisticated. Yeah. All right, now we get to the fun part where we are packing. Let's pack this shit up. Alrighty. This will go in the freezer as it is to conserve on freezer space. Get it as compact as you can. That looks good. And bags of meat. Bags of meat. Meat bags. Get your meat bags. Fucking meat bags. Fucking meat bags. Oops. You don't have to do this, but an African guy showed me the heart. Cut it in half. There's blood clots all inside. Oh, that's really clean. Here, there's blood clots inside. You take the blood clots out, so the heart will last longer. Anyways, we don't need to do that. And a little intestine bag here. These large Ziploc bags. They can carry about 2 to 3 kilograms of meat each. So 3 bags is close to 10 kilograms. And that's usually what I ship to customers in, about 10 kilogram bags. I like to separate the intestines and the meat, because some people don't like the intestines. Dogs love them. Dogs love everything. Let's see. We got 2 bags so far. It's not bad. What's interesting is, usually, you can calculate the amount, the weight of the deer by the weight of the meat and the bones. So for me, the weight of just the meat times 5 is basically the weight of the animal. So if I have like 20 kilograms of meat, it could have been close to a 100 kilogram animal, which is pretty darn big. And usually, say I have 20 kilograms of meat, the bones will be about half, depending on if it's a female or a male. The male usually has bigger and heavier bones, so you're going to have a larger bone mass as opposed to a female. So this was a female deer, so I assume that the meat will be more than the bones. The males also have huge necks, which is very bony and strong, so of course a lot of their energy is going into their bones for fighting. Esophagus. Whatever, that's fine. Okay, back strap. Oh, that's some luxury dog meat right there. That's gonna be one happy doggy. And we got 5 bags. Looks like we're about 5.5 bags in. 5.5 bags of meat with intestines. It's a lot of meat. That's I'd say about 16, 17 kilograms, which would make this deer, I don't know, 60, 70 kilograms. Now we are done packing. And now it's time to load up. And just in the nick of time, because it's starting to rain. Alrighty. There's no water here, so unfortunately, I have to clean this shit up later. Alrighty, let's get the bone bucket down. Oh! Whoa! Ooh! Get our bucket. Get in there. There we go. And a homemade ramp. I got into soldering, so it comes in handy. I don't need that in there. Get our bone bag in here. So if we had 16 kilograms of meat, that bone box would be about 7 or 8. Pretty sure it is. We have a lot of blood dripping here. I usually pour some lime over it. Fuck. Just so it's a little bit more tidy next time. Lime is supposed to help get rid of the odors and remove the moisture from the meat. Usually it's used in, like, I don't know, burial of dogs and such. Anyways, I don't want to slip down this hill, so slowly pull this crap down the hill. Oh, there we go. I hope you get a nice workout just by watching me work out. Get that in there. Our money buckets and the box. There we go. All right. So that's what it takes to make about 20 kilograms of dog food.